Well, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, or afternoon, depending on what part of the globe you're on and what time zone you are in. I am your host, Skeptically Speaking. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a long while. It has been 3.5 years since I started this book. And we stopped at chapter 17. So if you are watching this on TikTok, I have a YouTube, skeptically speaking, but this one is Skeptically G. You can find me live on Skeptically G. So yes, please listen in as we read this book. It's backwards, but The Founding Myth by Andrew Seidel. Okay, this one's facing forward. Great. Anyway, here we go. First, I'm going to pour myself a brew. I haven't had one since Sunday. That's okay. If you're joining us on YouTube, thank you so much for your patience. I told you I was going to finish this book. I just didn't tell you when. All right. So to recap, we've been talking about how the Constitution does not jive with the Old or the New Testament. Let's see. 17, forced rest, the fourth commandment. Number 4, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work. You, your son, your daughter, your male, your female slave. Your livestock or the alien resident in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, but rested on the seventh day. And the sea and all that is in them, but rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. Exodus chapter 20. Thomas Paine wrote, the word Sabbath means rest, that is, cessation from labor, but the stupid blue laws of Connecticut make a labor of rest, for they oblige a person to sit still from sunrise to sunset on a Sabbath day, which is hard work. Fanaticism made those laws, and hypocrisy pretends to reverence them. For where such laws prevail, hypocrisy will prevail also. On the Sabbath day of Connecticut, 1804. The rationale for the Sabbath rule is slightly ridiculous. It celebrates lazy omnipotence. If one is all-powerful, there is no such thing as toil. All is rest. Yahweh would not need 6 days to do anything. He'd need only the briefest moment. Nor would he need to rest. It would have been far better to declare a day of rest to spend with family and friends in relaxation from the rigorous week, rather than invent a lazy God. Ridiculous justification aside, at first blush, this stricture would appear to have influenced the America's foundations. Perhaps so. It may be necessary to concede some influence here, but the rule was not influential in the way Christian nationalists suppose or accept. Sabbath, or more accurately, Sunday closing laws, are part of American culture and laws. Though the concept is not central to the foundation of our country, but to determine its influence, we must first understand the rule. The biblical penalty for Sabbath breaking is death. The Israelites stoned a man to death for gathering kindling on the Sabbath. At first, part of this rule is meant to encourage or perhaps coerce worship. If anyone has the same day off, nobody has an excuse for missing church. This needs to coerce attendance at worship services undercuts the favorite argument that humans are religious beings. David Tappan, a Congregationalist reverend and Harvard theologian, gave a sermon in Boston on Election Day, 1792, explaining that preachers need the Sabbath to control their flock. Many of us preachers are connected with societies which are chiefly composed of the laboring and more illiterate class, that these peculiarly need the privileges of a weekly Sabbath and public religious instruction, and that many of them require very plain and very pungent applications. In order to enlighten their ignorance and rouse their stupidity, or to check their vicious career, the Sabbath exists not because people need a day to worship, but because clerics need to continually reassert their role in the lives of the credulous. If there were, as oversimplified Blaise Pascal quotations suggest, a God-shaped hole or vacuum in humans, there would be no need to mandate church attendance. But the American colonies, which were part of Great Britain and their established churches, passed Sabbath laws to do just that, coerce attendance. British colonists in Virginia passed the first in 1610. Quote, every man and woman shall repair in the morning to the divine service and sermons preached upon the Sabbath day, and in the afternoon to divine service and catechising, upon pain for the first fault to lose their provision and the allowance for the whole week following, for the second to lose the said allowance and also be whipped, for the third to suffer death. This law is not about rest. It's about imposing religious conformity, about forcing people to worship and believe in a certain God. Nothing could be more fundamentally opposed to our First Amendment and founding principles than such a law. This is why the Supreme Court, although it has upheld Sunday closing laws, in some instances has struck down any religious aspect of or religious rationale for those laws. American Sunday closing laws have been around since the founding, but are upheld in court for strictly secular reasons. A law like the Fourth Commandment would be struck down by American courts. So too would be the aforementioned 1610 law, especially after Virginia adopted the Virginia Statute on Religious Freedom in 1785, which Thomas Jefferson authored. That marvelous text upon which our First Amendment is based directly refutes such laws. That the impious presumption of legislators and rulers, civil as well as ecclesiastical, who being themselves but fallible and uninspired men, have assumed dominion over the faith of others, setting up their own opinions and modes of thinking as only true and infallible, and such endeavoring to impose them on others, hath established and maintained false religions over the greatest part of the world through all time. The Supreme Court has cataloged the evolution of Sunday closing laws from wholly religious sanctions to legislation concerned about the establishment of a day of community, tranquility, respite, and recreation. A day where the atmosphere is one of calm relaxation rather than one of commercialism, and it is during the other 6 days of the week. Even this rationale rings a bit false in America's highly commercialized society. But as early as 1885, the Supreme Court recognized the Sunday closings were not about the Sabbath. Laws setting aside Sunday as a day of rest are upheld not from any right of the government to legislate for the promotion of religious observances, but from its right to protect all persons from the physical and moral debasement which comes from uninterrupted labor. Such laws have always been deemed beneficial and merciful laws, especially to the poor and dependent, to the laborers in our factories and workshops, and in the heated rooms of our cities, and their validity has been sustained by the highest courts of the states. As the United States Post Office expanded alongside the nation in the early 19th century, a debate erupted over then regular delivery of mail on Sundays. The practice was halted, and a congressional committee issued a report on the controversy on January 19, 1829, that specifically stated that religious reasons did not and constitutionally could not motivate stopping Sunday delivery. The report explained that some respite is required from the ordinary vocations of life, is an established principle sanctioned by the usages of all nations, whether Christian or pagan. 1 day in 7 has also been determined upon as the proportion of time and in conformity with the wishes of the great majority of citizens of this country. The first day of the week, commonly called Sunday, has been set aside to that object. Thus, it was not for religious reasons that the government chose Sunday to close the postal department, but a matter of convenience. The report continued, quote, the proper object of government is to protect all persons in the enjoyment of their religions as well as civil rights, and not to determine from any whether they shall esteem one day above another, or esteem all days alike holy. We are aware of a variety of sentiment exists among the good citizens of this nation on the subject of the Sabbath day, and our government is designed for the protection of one as much as for another. The report then chastised the religious zealots seeking to shut down the government on Sundays. The transportation of the mail on the first day of the week, it is believed, does not interfere with the rights of conscience. The petitioners for this discontinuance, that is, the Christians petitioning Congress to stop the delivery of mail on Sundays, appear to be actuated from a religious zeal, which may be commendable if confined to its proper sphere, but they assume a position better suited to an ecclesiastical than civil institution. Should Congress, in their legislative capacity, adopt the sentiment, it would establish the principle that the legislature is proper tribunal to determine what are the laws of God. It would involve a legislative decision in a religious controversy. Among all the religious persecutions, which almost every page of modern history is stained, no victim ever suffered from the violation of what government denominated the law of God. To prevent a similar train of evils in this country, the Constitution has widely withheld from our government the power of defending the divine law. This ringing statement was followed by an even stronger defense of the separation of state and church. Extensive religious combinations to affect a political object are, in the opinion of the Congressional Committee, always dangerous. All religious despotism commences by combination and influence. And when that influence begins to operate upon the political institutions of a country, the political power soon bends under it, and the catastrophe of other nations furnishes an awful warnings of this consequence. So despite their history, not all Sunday closing laws were adopted for religious reasons. And as the Supreme Court has explained, any Sunday closing law would violate the Establishment Clause if it can be demonstrated that its purpose is to use the state's coercive power to aid religion. As with the Second Commandment, punishing innocent children to the third and fourth generations, reading the entire Fourth Commandment reveals a darker side, again, which is typically omitted on the Ten Commandments monument. The Fourth Commandment recognizes that human beings can be property. You shall not do any work, you, your sons, your daughter, your male, your female slave, your livestock. Surely any God's ultimate collection of moral precepts should include an injunction against slavery, not a recognition of it. This is the influence Christian nationalists are unwilling to admit. Judeo-Christianity contributed significantly to our country's long and shameful history of slavery. Speaking of his former master, Frederick Douglass wrote, "His religion hindered him from breaking the Sabbath, but not from breaking my skin or on any other day other than Sunday. He had more respect for that day than for the man for whom the day was mercifully given. For while he could cut and slash my body during the week, he would on Sunday teach me the value of my soul and the way of life and salvation by Jesus Christ." Christianity, the Bible, and despite Douglas' musings, Jesus all affirmed the legality and morality of slavery. This divine sanction influenced America's founding. Both Christianity and our Constitution discuss slavery as an institution. The details the details of dealing with that institution and did not prohibit it. In short, both implicitly recognize the viability of one human owning another. The Hebrew Bible is rife with slavery. Exodus and Leviticus lay out the laws for beating, selling, buying, and raping one's slaves. Slaves who worshiped the Hebrew God were treated more leniently, some even being set free after 6 years. Religious apologists and some Bible translations claim that the word slave actually means servant. Ownership distinguishes a servant from a slave. Slaves are owned, servants are not. While the Bible sometimes distinguishes between servants and slaves, in Leviticus 25, for instance, if any who are dependent on you become so impoverished that they sell themselves to you, you shall not make them serve as slaves. They shall remain with you as hired or bound laborers. The Jewish Encyclopedia says the Hebrew word ebed really means slave, but the English Bible renders it servant. Hebrew slaves owned by other Israelites had a higher status. They were freed after a set time, but they were still owned. Still Ebed, and therefore still slaves. Hebrew girls were eligible to be sold as Ebed, sold into sexual slavery, but were never to go free so long as their father sold them and they pleased their new master. Quote, when a man sells his daughter as a slave, if she does not please her master, who designated her for himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. Just to be clear, who designated her for himself means the buyer can sexually assault the young girl. The law is not concerned for the girl unless she does not please her master, in which case she may be returned like a defective product. If there is any lingering doubt about the sexual nature of this deal, it's cleared up by the subsequent verses, which treat wives and female slaves as synonymous. If he designates her for his son, he shall deal with her as with a daughter. If he takes another wife to himself, he shall not diminish the food, clothing, or marital rights of the first wife. And if he does not do these things for her, she shall go out without debt, without payment of money. Jesus endorses slavery too. He tells his disciples a story involving the appropriate force with which to beat a slave. The slave who knew what his master wanted but did not prepare himself or do what was wanted will receive a severe beating. But the one who did not know and did what deserved a beating will receive a light beating. Had Jesus been anti-slavery, this would have been a good time to mention it. St. Paul explained his Savior's immoral teachings. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, in singleness of heart as you obey Christ. Render service with enthusiasm. The American justification for slavery was inextricably tied to Christianity and the Bible. We'll see more of this later. See chapter 17 and 24. For now, it is enough to know that our Constitution is not free from what Thomas Jefferson himself, a slave owner, called that hideous blot. Just like the Ten Commandments, it legitimized slavery. Article 1, Section 2, representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included with the Union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, excluding Indians not taxed 3/5 of all other persons. 3/5. Where have we heard that before? Article 1, Section 9, the migration of or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed upon such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person. Article 4, Section 2, no person held to service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. Getting good, isn't it? Article 1, Section 9. The clause protecting the slave trade until 1808 illustrates how the framers viewed the slavery problem. The southern states would not give up their slaves. They would sooner refuse to join the Union. The founders thought the Union more important for the moment, so they postponed the slavery fight. The failure to stand for the principle of universal equality led to the Civil War 75 years later. Madison thought that the 20-year waiting period protecting the slave trade until 1808 more dishonorable to the national character than to say nothing about it in the Constitution. But abolition was not a goal of the 1787 Constitution. Uniting the colonies into one nation, the United States, was. During a particularly tense moment at the Virginia Ratifying Convention, when some were threatening secession over the possibility of abolition, Edmund Randolph delivered a speech noting the difference. Quote, "Where is the part of the Constitution that has a tendency to abolition of slavery? Is it the clause which says that the migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by Congress prior to the year 1808? This is an exception from the power of regulating commerce, and the restriction is only to continue till 1808. Then Congress can, by the exercise of that power, prevent future importations. But does it affect the existing state of slavery? Were it right here to mention what passed in convention on the occasion, I might tell you that the Southern states, when South Carolina herself conceived this property to be secure by these words. I believe, whatever we may think here, that there was not a member of the Virginia delegation who had the smallest suspicion of the abolition of slavery. Randolph was right. The Constitution did not prohibit slavery. It would prohibit slavery later, but that would require a war and constitutional amendments. Our Constitution was not perfect when it was written, nor is it perfect now. The first African-American Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall, thought that the government of the framers devised was defective from the start, requiring several amendments, a civil war, and momentous social transformation to attain the system of constitutional government and its respect for the individual freedoms and human rights we hold as fundamental today. The framers recognized that they were fallible and were embarking on a great social experiment. The framers knew the document would be flawed, the inevitable result of political compromise, and would require alteration over time. So they provided procedures for future changes. America tends to forget that the amendments they so often cite actually amended the Constitution. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments ended slavery as an institution, while slavery supporters continued to cite the holy, unalterable, infallible Word of God. The Sabbath commandment itself is a reminder to believers that they are, as Paul wrote, owned, not free. The Sabbath is not meant for people to rest. It is to remind them whom they serve. The fourth commandment in the third set of 10 commandments, see pages 164 to 65, very like the first, reminds readers that they were once slaves to an earthly master and are now slaves to a more powerful one. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Ownership simply transferred from Pharaoh to Yahweh. One final point on this commandment. Yahweh differentiates Israelites from other alien residents, listing non-Israelites after livestock. You, your son, your daughter, your male, your female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. He makes a point of saying that, although non-Israelites are lesser and treated as such in most of his laws, even they could not be made to work on the Sabbath. As we'll see, differential treatment for Israelites and non-Israelites plays a crucial role in interpreting Commandments 6 through 10. Chapter 18. I hope you're enjoying this book. It's an awesome book, and 3 years ago I started reading this book, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. I had to finish it. Please check the sound on YouTube. Let me know how we're doing. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it too. I think I'll open another one and have it ready. Chapter 18 looks like it's going to be a shorter chapter. And away we go. Thank you. Chapter 18, Our Family Honor, the Fifth Commandment. Honor your father and your mother so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Exodus 20, verse 12. All three monotheisms, just to take the most salient example, praise Abraham for being willing to hear voices and then to take his son Isaac for a long and rather mad and gloomy walk. And then I can't read that word. And the caprice by which his murderous hand is finally stayed is written down as divine mercy. Christopher Hitchens, God is Not Great, 2007. There is little serious argument that this particular commandment influenced the American founding. Culture, yes, but few assert with any real conviction that parental reverence built this nation. Since we'll touch on Christian family values later, there are only a few points to denote here. Interestingly, this is the only commandment that comes with an inducement instead of an implied threat, as Christopher Hitchens observed. The reward is not only long life, but long life on the land you were given, the promised land. The rule has the slight suggestion of being respectful to father and mother in order to come into an inheritance. Whether Hitchens is correct that this is an inducement for inheritance or whether it is a veiled threat that this God may take away the promised land, the rule is tainted. Remember, the land that the Lord your God is giving you is given with the promise of genocide, according to the second set of 10 commandments. That gruesome promise is kept in subsequent books of the Bible, such as Joshua. The fifth commandment requires respect simply because of a family connection. Intellectual honesty requires only those worthy of respect receive it. The biological fact of fatherhood or motherhood does not in and of itself warrant honor. Observe Freedom from Religious Foundation co-founder Ann Gaylor. Not all parents are worthy of honor or respect. Recall that Noah cursed his own grandson because he, Noah, passed out drunk and naked. We already met Lot of Sodom, the person of Judeo-Christian God considered the sole bastion of morality in that doomed town, who offered up his daughters to be sexually assaulted by a mob. This horror is indefensible, and one ought to think twice before accepting moral advice from anyone who defends these actions. But things got worse for Lot's unnamed daughters. Both became pregnant by their own father. The Bible blames this on the young nameless girls, claiming that they plotted together and to preserve the family line got their dad drunk and sexually assaulted him without his knowledge. Yes, really, which is more likely, that a male author of a book of the Bible blames women for a crime committed by a male assailant, or that two young girls who had been offered up for gang rape by their father, who had lost their mother, seduced their drunken, unconscious father? The latter is too absurd to be believed. But there is plenty of biblical precedent for the former. Eve, to name one. God clearly believes Lot worthy of honor. He sent his angels to save him. But must his victims honor him? Must these girls really honor the man who would give them to a gang of rapists and later rape them himself? The more plausible explanation for their paternal impregnation? Because not every parent is worthy of respect. This commandment is, to use a legal term, over-inclusive. It's a law that protects people it should not. But curiously, it is also under-inclusive, failing to protect the people it should. Since the code already mandates blind respect, it could easily be improved by extending the requirement to honor to all one's family, or better yet, one's fellow human beings. However, if blind respect is to be mandatory, perhaps the best formulation would require that every human deserves the chance to earn respect. One might justifiably end a moral code there and have done better than the Judeo-Christian God. If the true purpose of this commandment is not to spread familial bliss, as seems evident by its shortcomings, what might it be? There are three possibilities: ensuring obedience, supporting priests, and supporting the clan. All three purposes work to perpetuate the religion that issued the mandate. This commandment is not about honor and respect. It is about obedience and power. Gaylor labeled it as an extension of the authoritarian rationale behind the first four commandments. The idea is simple. Honor your God-fearing parents if you want a reward. And since parents will worship the biblical God with no other gods before him, this commandment helps ensure the worship of the correct deity. Take to heart all the words and give them as a command to your children, so that they may diligently observe all the words of this law, preached Moses. Paul echoes this in the New Testament, commanding all fathers to bring their children up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. This commandment teaches obedience at an early age and commingles household obedience with the obedience to God. The blurring of the familial and religious duties also supports the priestly caste. Protestant reformer Martin Luther applied this commandment to priests, whom he labels spiritual fathers. He writes, quote, "Since the day the priests are fathers, they are entitled to their honor even above all others." Ew. Those who would be Christian are under obligation in the sight of God to esteem them worthy of double honor, who minister to their souls, that they deal well with them and provide for them. He goes on to say that Christians should bankroll priests even if they are starving, for they will be rewarded in heaven for doing so. Televangelists preaching the prosperity gospel, essentially a divine lottery with a healthy dose of guilt and coercion, in which followers donate or vow money and pray and are supposedly rewarded with wealth, echo this. Said one televangelist, "Vowing is one of the best ways to stretch your faith, but only when your vow goes beyond your natural resources or abilities. I don't need much faith to vow $100 if I have $2,000 in a saving account. But if I don't even have a savings account and can barely pay my bills, then a $100 vow will stretch my faith indeed. For I will have to seek God and focus on him to supply the seed to pay that vow." Wow. Better you go hungry than your priestly telegenic father. Sick. The command also is a clannish element. The Jewish religion is built on patriarchs, Abraham, Moses, David, Solomon, the fathers of their people, then in turn ensure that their people worshiped the Father Yahweh. Jesus took worship of the Father to new heights, even instructing his followers to call no one your father on earth, for you have one Father, the one in heaven. This pipeline to the gods controlled by a single patriarch eventually led to the divine right of kings. Even the most woeful student of the United States history knows that America's founding generations spurned kings. Oops. Gaylor was correct to describe this commandment as the authoritarian culmination of the previous orders. That authoritarianism, the veneration of authority, may have helped elect Donald Trump. With his immodesty, lack of liturgical and scriptural knowledge, and unchristian behavior, Trump seemed like an improbable choice for American evangelicals. Yet 81% of the white evangelicals supported him, more than supported Mitt Romney, John McCain, George W. Bush. Trump promised these voters plenty, but previous candidates had promised more and fared worse among them. They have demonstrated a strong distaste for female leaders. While that might account for evangelicals not voting for Hillary Clinton, it does not fully account for them flocking to Trump in greater numbers than they did for past candidates. Trump's dictatorial tendencies and mendacity negate attributes for many voters, poised him perfectly to manipulate the evangelical mind. Like the biblical God evangelicals worship, Trump is a thin-skinned authoritarian with totalitarian tendencies. He craves love and punishes any disloyalty or slight. Evangelicals have been taught to worship and adore that type of being above all others. This strain of religious cultivates a veneration of extreme authority. Studies bear this out. Religious fundamentalism uh, and a tendency to submit to authoritarianism are highly correlated. Trump acted like the character evangelicals worship and benefited from their ingrained adulation. Evangelicals were simply seeing in Trump a character they'd been taught to revere, as if to prove a point. Ann Coulter called Trump her emperor god. Coulter's failed attempt at humor, which came before she turned on Trump in the early 2018 for signing the 1.3 trillion spending bill, contains an uncomfortable grain of truth. With the evangelicals' ready hearts comes an overly receptive mind, a blind faith in righteousness of the strong man authority. If he says something, it is true. It becomes an article of faith, not an issue of fact or evidence or reality. You shouldn't be in the totalitarianism business if you can't exploit a ready-made reservoir of credulity and servility, observed Christopher Hitchens. Hitchens was speaking about Stalin and the highly religious, and therefore credulous, population on whom Stalin imposed his will. But the analogy is apt. Evangelicals believe in virgins giving birth, talking snakes, and all manner of obvious falsehoods. Their religious mind is primed to accept lies. Presented with an extraordinary claim, it does not demand extraordinary evidence, but instead engages in faith to overcome skepticism. Their religion has taught evangelicals to accept rather than to question. Trump's constant waterfall of outright lies landed on amenable minds. His support was great among regular churchgoers and among lukewarm believers. The greater the faith, the more subordinate healthy skepticism becomes. So, the biblical fetish for totalitarians may have helped America elect its first. The U.S. Constitution honors individual rights over naked authority. The fifth commandment is about perpetuating religion, ensuring obedience, and venerating authority. It had no influence on America's founding. Well, we made it to chapter 19, which we will start on a later date. We're almost done with this book. This has been an exceptional book, and I cannot recommend it enough. Thank you so much for liking the live, those who have been hitting that like button. I appreciate it. If you have a YouTube account, I would humbly ask that you follow me, Skeptically Speaking, on YouTube. Go to YouTube and find Skeptically Speaking. You'll see my channel there. You'll see a raptor with wings and a halo. That's how you know it's me. Oh. Anyway, any thoughts from the audience? So I am on YouTube and also TikTok. So if you have any thoughts, comments, concerns with what we just read, please put them in the chat. And we'll chat about it. Oh my goodness. I tell you, this just does not work. Anyway. So it's been a great book so far, and I'm happy to read it. I just got to make sure that I take time out of my day. I let 3.5 years go by before I picked this book up again. Well, I'm not going to let another 3 years go by, because we have another book to go through. This is about the Supreme Court, American Crusade. American Crusade, How the Supreme Court is Weaponizing Religious Freedom, by Andrew Seidel, author of The Founding Myth, which we are reading now. So I've been wanting to get to this book, so I'm going to finish this book first before we start another one. But no, it's Doing lives like this is forcing me to read this book. Oh, thank you so much, Tavalian84. Yes, please. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it anywhere books are sold. I got mine on Amazon. That's where I found it. But Andrew Seidel is a great. I just love the way he puts things. He doesn't use a bunch of goofy language. He gets to the point. He lets you know. He shows you the Bible verses that Christian nationalists tend to focus on, and he shows you the Constitution, and you can see the conflict that our Constitution has. Oh, can you find it in Spanish? I wouldn't be surprised. I know it has been translated in different languages. Spanish is probably one of the first ones it would be translated into. Look that up. Andrew L. Seidel. Andrew Seidel. You won't be disappointed. It's a great read. It's a great book. It's very informative. Thank you so much for joining my team. Cara Marie. So if you if you become a skeptic, I will add you to our chat later. So I'm going to write your name down to add you to the skeptical. Basically, it's a TikTok chat. It's kind of like the old Facebook Messenger chats. You can come in there. You can post what videos that you like, that really reached out to you, that spoke to you. Let's see. Okay. I'll try to remember, and I'll add you to our skeptics list. Thank you so much. But yeah, if anyone wants to join the discussion, I'm free for a couple of minutes. We'll talk about it. So the chat is open for guests. But yeah, I've been going through this book. I started reading this book 3.5 years ago. And I got to chapter 17 and then I just stopped. And life got in the way. Now I'm back at it. I'm gonna get through this book. I got shelves of books I need to get to. It's unbelievable. But these lives and doing this on YouTube forces me to get through it. It forces me to read through these books. It's kind of like an accountability partner. I don't know how to explain it. If I just left it up to myself, the books would be untouched, and that's not good. But anyway, if no one wants to join the discussion, that's okay. Please join us next time. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow or next week. We do Sunday night shows. Every Sunday night we do a show on TikTok, also on YouTube. So you can find me at Skeptically Speaking. Okay, same word as the TikTok, same handle. I changed the YouTube so it would reflect. You can find me on Blue Sky. You can find me on TikTok. Well, you're on TikTok. You can find me at YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. You can also find me on Substack. So I'm pretty much everywhere, causing good trouble, I hope. But we need books like this. We need books like this that show us that Christian nationalism has no hold on us. It has no part with us. We should not even consider it. It has nothing to do with the Constitution of the United States. And I know Christians will come up here and they'll lie all day and say, no, the U.S. Constitution was influenced by the Bible and by Christians. And to that, I say hogwash. If you can get through this book and you get all the way up to chapter 17 and 18, does the book define what actually means to be an American? There is no set definition. Tuvalu 84. I don't believe there is. What does it mean to be American? That's different for everybody. The book doesn't delve into that. It dispels the myth. Remember, it's called the founding myth. The founding myth is Christians who spread lies that say that our Constitution was influenced by the Bible, that literally the Bible is what formed the Constitution, and nothing could be further from the truth. But no, it's been great. I've enjoyed doing these readings, and I intend to do some more. So please keep an eye out, keep an ear out. And if you follow me and join the Skeptics team, you'll get an alert to when I go live. So, and also if you join the Skeptics team, if you become a skeptic for the cost of one TikTok coin, you get added to our chat. You're following me already. Are you a skeptic? Okay. If you're a skeptic, you will get added to our. Oh, I guess you just became a skeptic. All right. Tuvalu 84. All right. If you are in the US, I can add you to our chat. Unfortunately, I don't know why I need this book. Yes, it is a must read. I tell you, I've been reading this book for the past 3 years. You're in Florida? Okay. If you're in the US, I can add you. For I don't know why TikTok will not allow me to add anybody from any other country, as far as I know. Especially Europe. I've tried adding people from Europe and it will not let me. I don't know why. It's like they're not eligible to be in chats. That doesn't make any sense. It's part of the algorithm. It's a flawed system. You know what? I wish the government would regulate social apps, social media apps like TikTok. Anyway, that's another discussion. And ironically enough, I am drinking a Chinese beer, Tsingtao, imported premium lager. I tell you what, this tastes better. This tastes better than most American beers I've had. Budweiser, Bud Light, piss. Ugh, gross. Heineken, I love. Tsingtao is good. Sapporo from Vietnam. Oh, yeah? Well, he had good taste. I mean, this is the first time I've tried this beer. And it's definitely something I would buy again. Tsingtao. This is from the Qingdao province of China. And they do good work. They do a good job. So now, as far as Spanish beers, I do like Modelo. If it's black, if it's dark lager, I can do Modelo. Corona Especial, I can do Corona if it's dark. I think one of my favorites is Michelob. Michelob, not that ultra garbage, but yeah, we love the TikTok shop. What did I say? Did I say something? Modelo is definitely better than Modelo. I think there's a word missing there. But I've heard that Modelo is definitely better than Modelo. I don't know. Modelo, there's a term they use, but they use it for dark. Modelo is better than Corona. Yeah, well, Corona Especial and Modelo, I don't know. They're actually comparable. They're actually comparable. But as long as they're dark lagers, now my favorite all time is Guinness Extra Stout. That's my go-to. If I have extra coin to spend, the bottle flasher. Okay. If I have extra coin to spend, I'll get Guinness Extra Stout. But yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. You don't like beer? What do you like? Liquor, mixed drinks, any alcohol at all? By the way, I think I need to make you a skeptic. I'm not sure if I do that myself. Hold on a minute. Subscription. I don't know. It's not letting mix in Moscatos. Okay. You know what's interesting? I can do Moscato wine every once in a while. Moscato is my go-to. I don't care for white or extra dry or whatever it is. I can do Moscatos. I can do, as long as it's sweet, I can do Moscatos. I can do that. But no, reds give me a headache. Yeah. So you like the white Moscatos or the? I had a peach pineapple Moscato and a couple of other ones. One was a raspberry and a blackberry, I think. But yeah, for a while I was getting into Moscatos. I was polishing pineapple. Yes, I've had pineapple. That is actually very good. Pineapple and mango flavored. Those are nice. I can do that. But yeah, if it tastes rancid, like I don't know. There are some wines that just taste bad. Why is it not a myth? I'm not sure what you mean, Jonah. I'm not sure what you mean. You'll have to explain it. Yeah, my friend when connoisseurs make fun of me and say Moscatos are not real wines. Oh, pish posh. You know, the people that drink the bitter tasting wine, it tastes like vinegar. You know what I mean? I think they convince themselves that they like it just so that they can be in the club, I guess. I don't know. I'm not convinced that they actually like it, but to each their own, different strokes for different folks. But yeah, well, we've gone on. Vinegar tastes better than dry wine. It tastes similar to me. You know what I mean? It's very similar. What can you do? Oops, I'm not sure how that happened. Okay, goodness gracious. Yeah, this thing is just going to do whatever it wants. This thing has just gone nuts. Apply this effect. Yes. Thank you. There we go. That's a little better. Yeah, it just went. Yeah, the best. Yeah, the dad always said the best wine in the world is the one you like. Correct. Exactly. I mean, there's no I mean, there's no magical. I mean, you like what you like. Yeah, I don't think you can really change that. But yeah, I went through a dark liquor phase where I was drinking rye whiskey straight. I love bourbon with walnut syrup, with a little pinch of walnut syrup. I do love that. That goes down really easy. I do love cinnamon whiskey. And yeah, that goes down a little too easy. Fireball, I can drink Fireball, but one of these days I want to get an actual legitimate cinnamon whiskey, not the Fireball stuff from Jack Daniels or whoever makes it. Yeah, the founding myth, this has been a great read because it helps you understand, it puts into context, and it helps you combat the myths that are promoted by Christian nationalism. And that's what we have today. We have these goofballs running around who think that God helped craft the Constitution of the United States. And this is why we need a wall separating religion or the church from the state. And right now, we've got people running around that are literally trying to combine the state with the church. And they want the church to direct the state, to control everything. But yeah, so I can't say enough good things about this book. I cannot recommend this book enough for your own edification. And he also has a second book where he talks about the Supreme Court, how the Supreme Court has been hijacked. This is going to be our second book. Once I get through the founding myth, I do want to start this one. I've been holding on to this book for 2 years, and this was released shortly after COVID, and this has been a book that it is more prevalent and needed today more than ever. We have a bunch of religious extremists that have hijacked the courts, the Supreme Court, and hey, you don't like my 1980s hairdo? Come on now, I'm bringing it back. But I am using 1980s hair products, so I am true. I'm sorry. I've had too much beer to actually be angry with what you're putting to me, so that's okay. So I have 2 people I'm going to be adding to the chat. So anybody else who becomes a skeptic member. By the way, this is a $10 shirt, not a $2 shirt. So get some respect. RESPECT. Know what that means to me. Professor of literature. Well, thank you. I mean, I've never been called a professor of anything, but thank you for that. I appreciate that. For those of you who are watching this video on YouTube in the future, I am responding to people on TikTok. So you're probably wondering who I'm having a conversation with. That's who. So 1980s hairdo. Well, you know what? At least you got the era right. It's actually more 70s, but thank you. Yes, become a skeptic for 1 TikTok coin and keep that subscription going. If you become a skeptic, I will add you to our chat. We appreciate that. Plus, oh, by the way, if you have a YouTube channel, please go to Skeptically Speaking on YouTube and give me a follow there, because I need to get the membership boost so that way I can start using my phone to go live and do more videos like that. So if you want more videos like this, follow me on Skeptically Speaking on YouTube, please. I'm almost to 50. Almost got 50. I've got 44, excuse me, 44 followers so far. So hop on YouTube and look for Skeptically Speaking on YouTube. I'd appreciate a follow. And I am going to see where we are on the YouTube. It'll take a little while to boot up. Come on now. Skeptically Speaking, where are we at? 44 subscribers. I need to get at least 50. At least you got hair. You don't have to pay for hair plugs like the Tesla Roman salute guy. Yeah, Tesla. Yeah, Roman salute from my heart. Yeah, try doing that at work sometime. You know, it's like these goofballs who are trying to make excuses for Elon Musk. It's ridiculous. It's like, what do you need? What would convince you that? What does he have to do to convince you that he is an actual fascist? I mean, my goodness, he comes from South Africa. How close to fascism can you get in this century? Besides the United States, but that's another story. So I've got 44 subscribers on Skeptically Speaking. Please give me a follow. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Useless artist. Who is that? Oh, Joe the Noctambo. Good to see you, Joe. Thank you so much for joining us. I have just gone through reading 2 chapters of Andrew Seidel's The Founding Myth. I started this project 3 years ago, and then I stopped. And for 3 years, I've been waiting to get back to this book. So we just finished 2 chapters. So yeah. So actually doing lives like this forced me to get through this book. Someone actually paid for a billboard that said, "This is the immigrant who took your job." Right? Yeah. Elon Musk is the only immigrant that's taking anybody's job. So if you'd like to listen to the reading of this book by Andrew Seidel, you can find it on Skeptically G. I'm currently live on YouTube right now. Skeptically G. Don't ask. But yeah, Skeptically Speaking, I've got 44 subscribers. I need at least 50, and I know we can get to 50. Find me on YouTube, please, and follow the YouTube channel. I'd appreciate it. And it's got all my links there. I've got all my links to Blue Sky, Substack, Twitter, formerly known as Twitter. What else? Instagram. Oh, Skeptically. Yeah. Skeptically Speaking and Skeptically Looking. Peter Botha's grandkids. I don't know who that is. But I'm sure that has something to do with, yeah. All right. Well, you know what? If we keep getting demand like this, I might just keep reading this on TikTok. We're going to be reading chapter 18. I don't know if I'll get to it tomorrow. Maybe. We'll see. But with that being said, oh, the apartheid boss in South Africa. Okay. Was he an elected official or just a hired thug? Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, though. It doesn't surprise me. Yeah, and then Elon Musk is crying about Teslas. No one wants to buy Teslas anymore. So he's crying about it. It's like, well, you know what? You brought this on yourself. No one wants to buy a car that sponsors fascism. You know, it's that simple. He was the one who installed apartheid in South Africa. Okay. Yeah, until apartheid became a dirty word. It's like, well, you guys came up with it, sons of bitches. Anyway, well, this has been fun. I'm going to have to get off. Maybe next time we go live, I can bring on a guest after the reading. And let's see. Let me go through this book one more time. Let me see how many pages. Because I read 2 chapters tonight. Ooh, man. Okay, so chapter 19 may... it's not actually... Actually, chapter 19 is not very long. Maybe long enough. 6 pages. Okay. Well, we'll see. All right. Well, we're gonna continue. I hope I get notification when you go live again. Yes, I hope so too. If you are in the if you're in the chat, you'll definitely get an alert there, because what I do is I share the live to, let's see, if I were to share it now, where would I go? So I have skeptics, the happening room. Oh, I didn't share it to the atheist group. Oops, I missed it. So I have 3 groups that I'm in that I share it. Okay, all right, take care. I have to pay more taxes to support England. God damn. Well, you know what? I hope that we will get serious about the midterm elections. You know, we have the midterms. We can stop the Trump fascist movement, but we have to get serious about democracy. We have to decide that we will stop it, that we will take this seriously. We have to decide, do we want democracy or don't we? And until white America decides to get off of its ass and get out and vote, we're not going to see the change that we want to see. We need to get serious about democracy. Anyway, with that being said, I will sign off. Thank you so much. It has been 1 hour and 8 minutes. Nice. All right. We got to do this again sometime. And we'll be reading more from this book. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Skeptically Speaking from the Biblical History Skeptics podcast. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Come again. I will read again. All right. Take care, everybody.